Would you say that along this time, where would you say your confidence came from?
My work ethic and the confidence in the work that I'm going to deliver has always been there. But the confidence around like setting boundaries and then setting personal and professional boundaries, that came later. Like, I knew that I needed to negotiate. So to me, that's associated with my work and my worth value. So that was a given. It didn't feel like a boundary necessarily.
So I know that you'll agree, enjoying myself while I work is the vibe that I'm trying to be on. So I want to invite you guys to Sidebar ATL here in Atlanta, Georgia. Sidebar, on top of the good food and live music, they have 3 different experiences. That means you can join me in the garden room, in the gold room if you want to try the top of the line hookah, and they also have the dungeon where I hear what happens in the dungeon stays in the dungeon. So it's the perfect mix. If you're here on business or you want to blow off some steam after work, you can meet me at Sidebar ATL so that you can have a little bit of dinner and then turn up afterwards if that's your jam. So check us out, 79 Poplar Street here in downtown Atlanta, or you can call 678-800-0741. Let's get it. Work and play at the same time, right? Welcome to another episode of the Work and Play Podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Young, and I have a really, like a kindred spirit.
Seriously.
Like literally here to join me today. So you guys know, I love to talk about self-actualization, self-discovery, life transitions, all of those, and even careers all in one. And who would know, I met another girl just like me who does all the same things but specializes in boundaries. So I'm really excited to get into this conversation with you. We're going to talk all about the boundaries from a professional standpoint.
Yes.
But I want to get to, this is about you. So without further ado, please take it away.
Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Mclemore. My pronouns are she and her. And I am a diversity, equity, inclusion expert that uses boundaries, gemstone healing to help people heal from workplace burnout, workplace discrimination. And I do that with coaching as well as with consulting as well.
Nice. I don't think I knew about the gemstone healing. What's that?
The bracelet.
Is that right?
Yes.
Tell me more.
Okay, so for example, this is my Truth and Communication bracelet. And the idea is that what you wear on your right hand is what you want to put out. And what you wear in the left hand is what you want to bring into you.
Okay.
So I have some truth and communication for today. Hello. And then here I have, this is green aventurine and pyrite for prosperity, abundance. Is my wealth bracelet.
Yes.
And then these 2 are grounding stones. Just so that I'm grounded in my space and conversation with you and throughout my day. So
I love that.
Yes, I incorporate that into my coaching as well.
Okay, dope. There was a time in my life where I was eating so many blueberries because I was like, you are going to speak your truth,
okay,
sis.
Throat chakra. Yes.
So I see that the bracelet is blue. Is that in alignment with the chakras?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then there's this little white piece.
So this is a Buddha head. I just really liked it. I thought it was cute. And then it represents peace and calm to me. So just incorporate it all together: peaceful communication, calm communication, clear communication.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes, thank you.
That's really good. Okay, so now that we're into it, how did you become, like, I love the boundaries side of you. How did you become a boundaries expert? Tell us.
Not having any. That was it. Yes. So for most of my life, I kind of just went with the flow or tried to please other people. My upbringing kind of put me into this space where I needed to, how do I want to phrase this? I needed to figure out how to get in and out of situations safely, and that didn't always mean asserting my boundaries. Sometimes it meant being quiet when I didn't want to be quiet.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes it meant that I was able to observe. I'm hypervigilant. That's like in my DNA now. So I can observe my surroundings very quickly, which is great, and also could bring some anxiety, right? So I didn't always have these boundaries because of where where and how I was raised, but because of that, I was able to realize that's where I was deficient in a way, and that's the muscle that I needed to grow.
Yeah, I think that is a huge starting point, because, you know, I will say I've had my own personal journeys, personally and professionally, and I think that if we start in the space that we both are similar in corporate, I think navigating in corporate America requires you to, one, understand what your boundaries are, and even maybe be aware of what other people's boundaries are. So as it relates to like you coming up into the world, you said that, you know, you developed some things from childhood, and then you had to develop this I want to say expertise in boundaries that really helps you in your personal life today. Yes. What was it like before you knew about your boundaries when you were navigating in your corporate space? And you can fill us in on what your role was.
Yes. So my very first job out of undergrad, I have a bachelor's in fashion merchandising and marketing.
Nice.
It all comes together.
Yes.
So my very first job was managing this retail store, and I was so excited. And I just wanted to do my best. So I just worked really, really hard.
Okay.
12 hours, more sometimes. And I just wanted to use my degree, and I really wanted to get into the buying and selling, being a buyer.
Really?
But I started in retail, so that was why I got my degree. I was like, I've been doing retail since I was 16. I have this degree so that I can be a buyer and be the one that chooses what's in stores. Yes. That was my initial goal. And so I'm working in this retail store, busting my butt, and I realized that other store managers weren't working as hard as I was working. And then my store was a lower volume store, and there were rumors that it was closing.
Okay.
And so I just worked harder, because I was like, if I just do so well, they can't close it.
Wow.
They were already, it was going to be closed. It was in the plans, right?
Oh, child.
So, right, little 23-ish year old self, trying to hustle.
Yeah, but
stressing myself out.
Right. Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
So they closed the store, but because I did so well, they promoted me. So I went from the number 14 out of 15 stores to the number 2 store.
Okay.
Whoo, totally different world, busy. I had to rehire a whole new team. Fast forward, one day I had still working these wild 12, 13 hours. I would, working in the mall, so I would just get a Starbucks coffee for breakfast and lunch. And then by the time I get home, I would have again, 23, so I'm microwaving something. And that was my life for about 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
So one day, I'm leaving the job, and I have a burning sensation here. And I'm like, what is going on? I thought I got stung by something. That's the kind of burn. I look, and there's bumps. And so the next morning, I go into urgent care, and I'm sitting on the little examination table, and the doctor was like, so, are you under any stress? I start bawling on the table, because yes, I'm under stress, but no one had asked me. I was 23. I hadn't thought about therapy. I wasn't doing any self-care. I wasn't even eating properly, right? And so I realized burnout is real. I didn't call it that at the time, but I was like, I can't keep functioning like this.
Yeah.
Busting my butt, working all of these hours, and I already knew everyone else wasn't doing it, but there was there was this idea from society and from people in my family that you're a black woman, you have to work 2-3 times as hard. So
this
do
is
that.
What comes with the territory.
Exactly. So if you don't eat, you don't eat. So drink another coffee.
Are you still trying to get a leg up on your entrepreneurial career? Now, I told you about the morning meetup, the community that was created for the betterment of entrepreneurship. And we are cooking up some really cool things. Now, here's the thing. If you join today, you can actually get in for 60% of the original price. So if you join today, all you have to do is download the app, and I provided the link below so that you can join us. We have community, we have a book club, and it's the largest group that meets every single day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. to literally get a head start on entrepreneurship. So if you're still trying to grow, you don't know what your business is going to be, but you know you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the community for you. So check out the morning meetup, click the link below, download the app, and join us today. And at this time, when you say like this was the first person to ask you, are you under stress? Are you saying that in your love circle, like people are basically looking at you and the tone is like they expect you to work this hard? Or do you think that they knew what you were experiencing?
No, I don't think people knew because I didn't know.
Okay.
And so it wasn't until that moment when she asked me that question, that doctor asked me, I was like, oh, well, shoot, I guess I am stressed. Mm-hmm. You're right. Mm-hmm. And then this stranger, I'm in urgent care. I've never seen this person before. So a stranger is the one that asked me. So even that was like a sad moment of, wow, no one noticed. I didn't notice. Mm-hmm. And I'm stressed out.
Yeah. Because
I didn't have the boundaries in the work that I was doing. Mm-hmm. Or within myself.
Yeah. At the time, I think about the highest stress point in my life. It's crazy. When I tell you the parallels, I don't know how many it's going to be before the end of this conversation. Because the first person who ever asked me if I was stressed, I didn't even know I was stressed. Because I was like, no, I'm traveling, it's doing this, that. And she's like, it sounds like stress, right? It's like, at that point in my career, I thought I was at the peak. I'm like, oh, we going to the upper echelon. I didn't identify with stress.
Yes.
She asked you, you obviously pulled from a place where you recognized you were. Mm-hmm. Where did you think you were in your career? Were you like, I'm at the top of my game? Were you thinking I'm close? Or were you thinking I'm behind? What was your mindset?
Yeah, so I knew I was doing well in the store. Mm-hmm. I knew we would have Friday calls and review everyone's sales reports. So from that perspective, I knew I was doing well. But at the same time, I got this promotion to this higher volume store, right? And there was a position that opened up in corporate. It wasn't quite a buyer, but you just got to get your foot there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I applied to it, and they called me. I want to say this was February, okay? And I transferred to the new store in March. And so some point between March and April, I had my interview with the corporate person. I find out later they contacted my district manager and said, hey, how is Ashley? Tell me about her work ethic, etc. And she said, oh, you can't have her right now. I didn't know that until later, right? So the burning, stinging sensation ended up being shingles.
Okay.
So February, March, that was August. So I find out I have shingles in August. And the reason why I had it was because I wasn't eating well, and I had chickenpox as a child. So if you have chickenpox as a child, the virus is already in your body.
Okay.
And usually lies dormant until you're older.
Okay.
When your immune system is more naturally low and more susceptible to viruses. So by August, I find out I'm stressed out, I got shingles, and I already knew that I didn't get the position, but I didn't know why. And, people talk. I ended up getting in touch with the original person that interviewed me, and she said, oh, such and such, I don't remember her name. Okay. Mm-hmm. She said that we couldn't have you because she needed you where you were. Excuse me?
What are you thinking in that moment?
I'm thinking, I have bust my butt to get to this place. I could have been running this store as a store manager 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. I didn't need to be here, but I saw it as a stepping stone. So I was furious, most definitely. And I knew that I had to change something. I'd already been diagnosed with shingles. And so I'm like, oh, I got to do something about stress. I don't know what yet. But I thought, oh, I need to quit this job.
Okay.
I need to quit because I'm not a human to you. I'm just a worker. I'm just somebody else that would do the thing. Because if I left, if a store manager leaves and they don't have anybody in time, guess who has to do the job? The district manager. And she did not want to do it.
So how long did it take for you to decide, okay, you said I need to quit, I want to quit this job, to the day that you actually quit? Uh-oh.
I am a planner.
Okay.
So I figured it out.
So you're not burning any bridges around here?
No. You see, I ain't dropped the name.
Yes. Because you know there is somebody right now like, sis.
Yes.
You think you saved yourself? You made it worse for yourself.
Yes.
There's some people who would have been like, nah,
I'm out. Right.
Yeah.
So I knew that I needed to take a vacation. I hadn't taken any time, and this has been about a year. And so I planned and got my vacation approved for 2 weeks. Over that time, chilled and also planned a little bit more. And then when I came back, I gave them a month's notice.
Nice.
Listen, because again, y'all not gonna say Ashley Mclemore did anything foul.
Yeah.
So I gave them 30 days notice, and I spent the month of October, so fast forward September, I kind of chilled a little bit, saved some money, and then I spent the month of October looking for an apartment in New York.
Where were you at the time? I don't think I got your location.
I did not say. I was in Ohio.
You were in Ohio.
Yes.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
And the journey begins.
Yes.
I've been to a bunch of different cities. So you were in Ohio, and I was also trying to figure out, was this a retail in terms of, was it like fashion? Because I know your degree was in fashion, or was it like brick and mortar, like big box retailer?
Big box retailer. This was jewelry retail also.
Okay, got you. So you were looking for an apartment in New York. What were you going to do in New York?
I was like, you know, if I'm going to be stressed out, I need to be in Fashion Week. Or I need to like really put this degree to use. And I interned in New York when I was in undergrad, so I already had a big love for New York City. So I was ready to get back there, and this was just the push that I needed to go on back.
Did you have connections?
I had a few. New York, it moved so fast, so there were some people that were long gone, but my university still has like a satellite office in a way in New York City.
Okay.
For when students come to do their internships there, and you can take courses as well. And so I was able to connect with my alumni association and try to make some connections there. And but I didn't have a job.
You just went.
I had calculated my coins and was like, okay, how long can I survive in New York City based on this savings account, period, alone? Knowing that I was going to have a couple jobs, but how long can I survive? Calculated what my rent needed to be, found an apartment on Craigslist in 2011. And I got in a U-Haul and drove to New York City.
How much time had you given yourself before you quit? What was your indication, like, when I have this much saved up, I'm good?
I wanted a round number. I was making $28,000 a year at the retail job.
Got you.
Okay, but I'm also in Ohio, so my rent was $400.
Okay, yes. Okay, bring it into perspective.
Full circle.
Yes.
So $400 rent, and my car was paid for, right? Okay, anyway. So I wanted to have just a round number. So I ended up saving $6,000.
Okay.
Rounded that up. I was like, I've already quit the job, so let me just, this is what I have. So I have 6 months of rent.
Okay.
Was my thought process. My rent was $1,000. Let me tell you about this apartment. Okay, New York City. Brand new building. A half a block from the train station. Like, not even a full street. Half a block. Doorman, concierge, gym in the building, hardwood wood floors.
Blown away.
I found it on Craigslist.
I'm so surprised.
It was not a scam. I saw the pictures and I was like, this, and it was a man. I was like, this man is gonna try to do something.
You still move forward though.
Because when I met him, I was like, oh, this is legit, and he just wants some extra income.
But at this point, you had already packed up and went.
No, so I went to New York for a couple days and went back. And then I drove back with my U-Haul like 2 weeks later.
Speaking of boundaries, at this point, this is a very intuitive move you're taking.
Yes.
So like, even though so at this point you weren't necessarily super duper aware of your boundaries, how would you look back at this moment now, knowing what you know now?
Yes. It was still the best decision. I would have, yeah, it was still the best. I really was cautious with the process. I wanted to move in with someone that I knew at first, so I was trying to make something work with somebody else, and they did not have their things together. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go the stranger route.
Yeah. When I think about it, have you read The Body Keeps the Score yet? I know you will if you haven't.
Yeah, I haven't, but it's on my list.
I think about it, and I'm not that deep into it, so not that I'm saying that I am, but the theme in itself, talks about how your body knows what it knows. And I'm thinking about your decision, which is very intuitive of you. And even when you look back, it's never to say like, hey, what would I change, or, was I wrong for that? But it's more just to kind of reckon. In my mind, I'm thinking, your body actually knew you were in the right place. You know what I mean? So you move forward. I feel like that's like what I'm sensing from that. Even though I am I'm just like, what? The boundaries expert? She goes to New York and she finds a spot. This is lit. You got a nice apartment, $1,000. He got a couple dollars in his pocket.
Yep.
What's next?
And I had to find a job. And I was determined not to work in retail again. But I worked in retail again. And I did that for about 8 months. Okay. And then right after that, I got into a private label showroom. So
tell me more. I have no clue what that could even mean.
Yes, so it's just one person that the fashion world has deemed to have a good opinion on fashion, right? And so they bring in private labels. So if you had a clothing company that wasn't owned by Saks, so it's just yours, so that's private, and you had these exclusive gowns, and you would say, okay, Tom, you can put my gowns in your boutique for X amount of months, or something like that. So he had 8 different private labels within this showroom, and everybody from anybody would come in there and shop. And so it was kind of like retail, but high-end exclusive retail. And then I just stayed in luxury after that and worked for the highest top luxury brand in the world, actually. That was fun. I did their jewelry, so anything over $150,000 a piece. I was in charge of all of those things.
This is amazing. Now, I'm noticing we're not saying any names, and I'm like, okay, where are we? Like, so is it important to not say the name for you?
No, not necessarily. The highest top luxury store in the world is Bergdorf Goodman. I don't know if have you watched Inventing Anna on Netflix?
I haven't.
Okay. So it was debuted in that show because it is like the highest of the highest place to shop, and there's only one in the world, and it's on Park Avenue in New York City. Wow.
How did you get the savvy to like network or not even network? How did you get the savvy to like navigate into this role?
New York gives you that. If you can stick with it, I was there for 7.5 years. I count the half because it's very important. Okay. And I came from Ohio, but I knew that I wanted more. So that drive partially was there, but then New York teaches you, like, this is how you have to move. Every conversation is a business opportunity. So that's what I did. Everyone I spoke to, whether we were just at the bar having a cocktail or on the train, I'm like, oh, and this was really before I was into social media. So I'm like, oh, what's your phone number?
Got it.
What's your email?
Yeah.
Let's be connected in some way. And I think LinkedIn at the time too. So
okay,
I was doing all of that.
Got you. When was the first? So because here's the thing, you made it from this one decision to get the apartment.
Yes.
To being at the #1 fashion brand.
Yes.
What's the first alley-oop?
I mean, there were some in there.
Yeah.
There were definitely some in there. I think I'm trying to remember who actually, someone introduced me to someone else at or close to Bergdorf, but I can't remember who it was. But that was a great piece. The biggest alley-oop though was from someone in Bergdorf, one of the buyers actually. So she was in charge of buying all the jewelry that was there. And one of her friends needed, I think office manager was the title. And they were like, oh, Ashley's amazing. Ashley can do it. Let me reach out to her. But she works at Bergdorf and she probably making a lot of money, so you have to offer her a lot. I wasn't making a lot of money.
Oh, it's just a big prestigious position.
Exactly. Like I saw Beyonce, Aretha Franklin, Kelly Rowland, all of these celebrity, Lady Gaga in Bergdorf. Like, so you were in spaces around people, heiress and actual like queens from around the world came. Wow. And they're like, oh, I want this $300,000 pair of earrings.
Yeah.
Ashley, can you go get it out the vault? That was what I did.
Yeah.
And so when her friend needed a role, she was like, Ashley's the best person. If you can poach her, she'll go.
And they didn't know you were right for the picking.
I was like, let me go on it.
Yeah.
I was like, well, how much is it? And I think they said, I don't know, 40,000 or something. I was like, well, is there insurance? So I didn't have insurance at the time. And she said, well, no, we don't do that. And I was like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I can't. They came back to me. And they were like, okay, well, we can't. I think I also asked them for more money.
Better negotiate.
So they said, okay, well, we can't do this, but we can give you full coverage, insurance coverage, dental, medical, and it was on the owner's insurance. So it was top notch, like gold, platinum, whatever, PPO. And then they gave me $2,000 more and was like, okay, all together, this gets you to $50K. If you include what they're paying for insurance and whatever. And I was like, okay, bet.
And you took it.
I took it.
That's lit. And you negotiated. You're going from like, retail to not necessarily like the corporate bureaucracy that you would have had to deal with if you went the buyer route immediately.
Exactly.
You didn't necessarily have to deal with that, but you did pick up the savvy to negotiate, to find your way into Bergdorf Goodman. Listen, y'all gonna hurt. Please, I hope nobody's judging me because I'm like, what? No, I'm not gonna try. But I was gonna ask you, before you left, you made the distinction between like, I met Beyonce to I saw Beyonce, right?
Because I don't need Beyonce or anybody from the Bayhive coming for me.
Oh yes, absolutely. I only mentioned that because you really you mentioned that, and it made me think of the social dynamics.
Yes.
How long were you there?
I was there for a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask, what did you, in that time, that year while you were there, what was like the number 1 or 2 things that you learned about, social dynamics or being around power in that space? Yes.
So interestingly enough, I skipped over this part, but in undergrad, I was around a lot of music celebrities. So everybody from Atlanta that was rapping came to Ohio to do concerts. And I knew people, so I would be either not chauffeuring, but like, okay, this is the pop-in party to go to after your concert. So I met Lupe Fiasco and Shawty Low before he passed, and Gucci Mane, and all of these celebrities, and Lil Wayne and Carrie Hilson in undergrad.
Nice. I got you.
So I learned that then, that you don't fangirl out. You don't run up to people and or try to touch people or take pictures. And really, everyone, we're all just humans. And so that practice of treating humans like humans, that's literally what I say, and it sounds silly, but if I'm not treating you like a god, and I just treat you like another human, I'm gonna respect you, I'm gonna honor you, I'm gonna be aware that, yeah, I shouldn't touch you, because boundaries, physical boundaries are important. Even though I love your music or whatever it is that you do. So I had parts of that. And then to the point of hypervigilance earlier, I'm watching what everyone else is doing. Nobody else is, no one else is doing that. So I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna stick out. I'm already the black girl. So, okay, we cool. Champagne, would you like some, and left it that way.
But on the inside, did you ever fangirl out?
Carrie Hilson, when I met her, I fangirled. And when I saw Kelly Rowland, she had on glasses and kind of just walked through. So the jewelry in Bergdorf is on the first floor. And so she just was walking past, and I was like, y'all know who that is? And people didn't know. Oh. And I was like, y'all are tripping. This is
the queen. Yeah.
So yeah, those two definitely were like, okay, keep it together.
Okay. I love it. I love it. So they poached you, and you went on to a new role. What was the new experience like? And they wanted you to be more in like admin, it sounds like. So how was that transition?
What they thought.
Oh.
I have a not a pattern, history maybe, of people like, oh, okay, this is what we want you to do, and then I get in and I'm like, I would rather do this thing over there, or someone asks me a question and realize I can do much more, and then I'm just off to the races. So this was a pivotal role for me because it launched my business. I didn't know it was doing that at the time, but I learned about diamonds, gemstones, cut, clarity, weight. I was in the diamond district, and it was a small company. What I would now be like, oh, this was a small business. I didn't know I was working for a small business. And it was really the foundation for how to run a business or not, how to treat your employees or not, on a smaller scale versus what I was already used to within retail that had that huge corporate arm, and they didn't have a manual. I created a manual for them. I created their inventory system because they didn't have one of those, which I learned at Bergdorf.
Okay.
Right. So now for my business, I have an inventory system. I have a manual. I don't got no employees yet, but y'all gonna know what the processes are when you come in here, right? And so that was just a pivotal role for me for that reason.
So what was the role that they hired you for, and what would you describe the actual role that you did?
Knowing now that it was a small business, or even thinking about it as a startup, I just did everything. I would say, maybe like a creative director or a director of sorts. So they would do bespoke pieces. So engagement rings or like a iced out necklace. And I got to be a part of that. And then sometimes I had to go get the lunch. And then sometimes running to the different jewelers that were in town that were going to adjust or create the piece, speaking to people in China and looking at like the dimensions and the little scales and how things are actually made, all of that.
That is an amazing experience. I'm always fascinated. I'm fascinated, one, because like in my little world, I think about if you had gone to the buyer role, right? And I'd be doggone, every time I talk to you, every time you tell me a story, I think of the pivots that we've taken along the journey. And in my corporate experience, when you are given a high salary with, you think such autonomy, right? And you're really like a cog in a wheel, you get your like auntly duties.
Yes.
But when you're in a role like this, you get so much experience.
So much.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Would you say that along this time, where would you say your confidence came from?
Ooh.
Tell it, girl.
So, wow. I've always had, okay, this is what I will say. My work ethic and the confidence in the work that I'm going to deliver has always been there. In school, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get an A.
No question.
That's it. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get the A. And so that part, I think, has just always been there. New York definitely gave me some extra pizzazz with my hustle. But the confidence around like setting boundaries and then setting personal and professional boundaries, that came later. Like, I knew that I needed to negotiate. So to me, that's associated with my work and my worth value. So that was a given. It didn't feel like a boundary necessarily.
Yeah. The best way to support the Work and Play podcast is by subscribing to the YouTube channel and by going to your favorite podcast player to subscribe and rate the Work and Play podcast. That's all you have to do. So if you are liking the Work and Play podcast, the content, the stories that we're sharing, and you know that this will help someone, go ahead and share the content to someone who could actually use it and help them on their journey to transition from corporate into entrepreneurship. Now let's get back into the episode. Did it ever feel like in any of your roles, because we've only just talked about 2, but you've had several over the years, which one, if you can think about it, would you say you learned the most about overextending or allowing people to either betray your boundaries or you not actually uphold your own boundaries?
I would say the place, ooh, this is a tough one. I would say it had to have been a combination of me being in grad school. So we're fast forwarding a little bit. Me being in grad school, the relationship that I had at that time, and the job that I was working for at the time. Like, it was a trifecta of, are you gonna set these boundaries yet? You gonna set these boundaries? Because we gonna give you all these different places and opportunities to assert them, maintain them, vocalize them to people. And that time was the hardest to do that. I was between, so grad school was 2 years, 2014 to 2016. And so there were 2 jobs in that time frame. One was at a foster care agency. That was hard. That was hard work. I only did that for 8 months.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, the kiddos.
Yes.
Right? The kids. And so then being in grad school and taking classes at night, and then other side jobs I had, right? And then this relationship that I was in, I now am able to see, like, I was just losing my natural confidence as that relationship went on. And then I switched roles because I couldn't do the foster care agency anymore. And I started, it was similar to City Service Corps or AmeriCorps.
Okay.
Peace Corps, that kind of thing, but it was in New York. So I wasn't abroad anywhere. And I got a stipend. They paid me so low that they couldn't even call it pay. So it was a stipend.
Yeah.
Right? And at this point, I'm transitioning from the fashion world to public health. So my decision was, okay, how are you going to, looking at my resume, it's full of retail, almost 10 years worth. How are you going to get someone to trust you and hire you in public health? I need to change my resume. So I did the foster care agency. And then I got into this program that put me in New York City Health Department.
Okay.
Over 6,000 employees, the largest city agency in the US.
And you're over it, you said?
I got into the company,
okay,
right? So now my toe is in there. I'm on a stipend. So I'm like just above the intern. But I'm in there. And because, again, that hustle, I'm like, oh, who am I talking to? How can I network? And I just did that.
You parlayed that experience.
Yes.
I'm thinking about, you know, the trifecta. Because, like, on one side, you're a go-getter. You're doing what you got to do to get to where you want to go. And on the other side, you are in a relationship, which you said you were losing your confidence. What are some of the things that you caught yourself doing, like in hindsight, that of course you see your clients doing, where you can identify, like, oh yeah, that right there, no boundaries. That right there, no boundaries. What was it?
Yes, I would say venting is really great. It's great. It keeps your throat chakra open and activated. And if you're only venting to yourself or to a friend or to a coworker, that means you're not actually communicating with the issue.
Oh.
So I was doing that a lot. And I was at that time just complaining. In some cases, rightfully so, like some situations warranted a new boundary. But I was just having these venting sessions, which just keeps it hot, right? Venting is like keeping the oven on the situation. You just simmer all the time, and then boil and simmer, right? And so doing that was stopping that was one of the hardest things for me to do, because I'm a vocal person. So even if I'm trying to brainstorm something, I need to talk it out with somebody. And so I had to create the boundary within myself that, okay, I can get it out. I'm a vent. I know which friends or which coworkers to vent to that aren't just gonna agree with me or turn the flame up higher into that boil. Okay?
I know what you mean.
And so I had to create the boundary within myself of, okay, go on and get it out. And then once you get it out, how are you going to communicate that with whomever you've been talking about? Whomever that was. If it's your boss, if it was my relationship, whatever it was, what's the next step? Because venting is okay, but it cannot be the only thing that you do.
Got it. And so you're saying to identify that you constantly complain about a thing, but you don't necessarily have a solution, or you're not around people who incite solutions from you, that's a sign that you didn't have boundaries within yourself. That's good. You know, like in this entire like cosm of like, you know, mental health and boundaries and things, we think about like creating these boundaries for other people, not to harm ourselves.
Yes.
I love the example that you give us where it's like, I'm not protecting my own. I gave myself a boundary.
Yes.
Like, how long are you going to complain about it? What are you going to do afterwards? And then how are we going to actually deal with it?
Yes. I always like to say boundaries are promises you get to keep to yourself. You don't have to do anything, right? But you get to keep these promises to yourself, these boundaries to yourself. So at that time, I was also reading the 4 agreements.
Girl, which agreement is the toughest one?
We're not even gonna talk about it. No. Yeah. So this was about 2014. Yeah. I was reading the 4 agreements, and be impeccable with your word, which also means to not gossip. And venting can turn into gossip. True. Right. And so I would be in my venting sessions ready, like, and then she, and then they, and then I'm like, be impeccable with your word. This is gossip. At some point, it turns into gossip. At some point, I start to give my opinion of that person or the scenario, and I'm trying to get you to agree with me, right? And then maybe we kiki, we laugh about it, we go away, and I don't ever have a conversation with that person. No boundary. And then it happens again because I've never communicated with them about the issue. I'm talking to everybody else.
What was the worst thing Like, I'm thinking of this situation, and these are things that I never even thought were boundaries or not having boundaries, right? And you're right. Like, you know, venting can turn into gossip, which can turn into a game of telephone, which can turn into, like, he said, she said. And I'm thinking stuff blows up.
Yes.
You said yes. Can you please describe a time when it just blew up? And you're like, yo, I did not expect this.
Ooh. You know, sometimes I just put those in the back. Ooh.
Dust it off a little bit.
Right? Come sweeping from up under the rug. Dang. All right. A time when, I'm not really specific on the details, but I do remember a time when there was conversation in my team about like raises and promotions or whatever. And it was like, well, this person's gonna get this amount and this amount. And so there was a smaller group of us having this conversation, gossiping about what people were gonna get or not get. And the higher ups ended up getting wind of it, and it just turned into this like, are you fraternizing? Like, why are these conversations even? This is against our policies and our handbook, and it just turned into this bigger like HR issue that it didn't need to be. And now fast forward, if you're just transparent about what y'all paying people, we don't have to have these conversations. But in that moment, that was not available. So the gossip and the opinions that were going around about how much people were going to get, what they actually did versus what their title was, and all of those layers, that was something where it was just like, no, that was a bad idea. That was a bad idea. And it really just blew up into this big messy thing.
Yeah. And now fast forward, because I do know a little bit about like, you know, what you do, just from a glimpse of what you've shared. Now you're dealing with like, you know, helping people navigate in those like sticky conflictive, you know, corporate situations.
Yeah.
But it started off as you wanting to be in fashion,
I know,
right?
isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I'm thinking, you know, you wanted to be in fashion, you went into retail, you wanted to be a buyer. I'm curious about both sides, honestly. One, like this creative side and who you were as a kid that developed into the woman who wanted to be in fashion. But I'm also curious, and I'm sure there's a connection, but you know, however you tell your story, I'm also curious what drove you to, or what gravitated you towards public health.
Yeah.
Like, were they similar or were they completely different things?
Yes. So the way I remember it, and it's my story, so I'm gonna tell it how I remember it. Is that I used to doodle and draw a lot as a kid and play with Barbies and dress up and all of that. So, and my mom studied interior design. And so it was always, how does something look, and putting everything together. So that was already there a bit. And so fashion was just interesting. I used to watch America's Next Top Model. Okay. I thought I could have been a model.
You could have.
But then I realized they're all over like 5'10".
Oh, got you.
Right? So as a kid, I didn't know I was only going to be 5'1". With sneakers on. I didn't know. So I thought, okay, so fashion industry was always a big interest to me. And when I was 18, I wrote out like my dream, whatever they have you do in high school, like your dream thing. And I literally wrote down that I was gonna be in fashion and retire as a sex educator.
Really?
I wrote it down at 18.
That literally, like, I can see this. You gotta open it up for us.
Yes. So I was, I went to school during the, I think they called it like a promissory note.
Okay.
And so it was Bush. And it was an abstinence letter, essentially, you were signing.
Okay, you said Bush, like the administration?
Yes.
And this is you signing a promissory note to yourself about abstaining?
Okay.
In
middle school.
Okay.
And I thought it was BS because, okay, so in middle school we had like sex ed. One day some stranger came into our class and told us this is what stuff is. And I was like, all right, well, I know people that's already doing some of this, so this isn't new to me. I was like, okay. Fast forward, get into high school, and we have seniors pregnant in the school. So I'm like, there's a disconnect somewhere here between like this idea that you're supposed to abstain from sex until marriage. No one's talking about masturbation or personal individual pleasure. And I don't know, I just was like, y'all were already late with this little note that y'all didn't try to get everybody to sign. And then you didn't give us any information. And I'm curious, I want to know, well, what's this thing and that thing, and what can I do, not do, what's considered safe or not. And so I lived in the library and in Planned Parenthood. I was like, how much information can I get?
Wow.
So all my friends, most of my friends would come to me. Girl, what's this? Okay, so I got this. Where can I go to get birth control? What does this look like? And all right, well, yeah, I'll go with you. I will take you, my other 15-year-old friend, to Planned Parenthood to get on some birth control. And I knew a lot of my friends were either on birth control or having sex. And funny story, some of them were on the depot shot. So it's a shot that you can get every 3 months. And you know, there's no patch, there's no pill, there's nothing to remember. So it was very common, especially then, for teenagers, because you could just get it and no one could know. But there was weight gain. And I was interested in getting it because I've always been this small. I was like, oh, y'all about to get so thick. I'm about to get thick with this depot shot. It didn't work. But I was on it for like 2 or 3 years because I was really trying.
Listen, she like, oh yeah, your girl finna be poking out here with the depot shot.
And then they would put it in like the medius part of your body because the needle was like 2 or 3 inches long. No joke. And so I would get it in my butt thinking like butt injections. That wasn't even the thing yet I didn't know nothing about it. But I was like, oh, if I get it in my butt, maybe it'll go there first.
Yep. We there, sis.
Listen, I know we talking about careers, but this is what happens.
This is important.
And this was a part of my logic. I was like, oh, I want to now go back and teach people, these other 15, 14-year-olds, what your options actually are, because abstinence can't be it.
Yeah.
That's not even, option means I got more than one.
Yeah.
And the way that it was framed was like, no, you just abstain.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I said, no, I need to have as much information as I can about this subject. And so my master's degree is in health education, but I have a concentration on sex and sexuality for that reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I can assume a lot, but that's also number like one, don't take things personally, but there's a don't assume in the four agreements.
Yes.
And there's so many things that I'm putting together from, you said I'm going to be a fashion designer, sex educator. And through your life, everything, you know, the tapestry is putting together. There's so many ways we can unpack, but I'm curious about the sex education piece specifically. You know, like I said, I started this conversation talking about like when you're navigating in corporate and you don't know your boundaries, that can have its own, like, you know, wreak its own havoc on your career. But then also in your personal life, right, where you don't have boundaries there, right, then you also are susceptible to some of these public health issues that we're talking about. As you're going through your career, and there's a retail stint, there's, you know, your master's, what are the things in life, what is the thing in life that brought you back to public health? Because we were entrenched in retail at one point. Like, you could have forgotten all about this public health thing. What was it in the sexual space that reminded you that this is something that you need to be on?
So I was working at that private jeweler, and I skipped over the part that they were just wild. They would like yell at each other and throw stuff in the office. It was an extremely toxic work environment. So I was ready to get out of there, and I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. And I thought to myself, if you're gonna have someone yelling at you and upset, let it be for a better reason than like their piece of jewelry or this like, I don't know, the dress was in the wrong size or something. Like, let it be for something more meaningful. And I didn't want to be a doctor. So I thought, oh, right, health education, sex education. Let me look back into that.
Okay.
And so I just started looking up programs. I was in New York City, so I thought, well, not NYU, that's a lot. Okay, not Columbia. Where's the school for me? And I wanted to also be like night school, condensed class, and all of that. So I ended up going to Lehman College, which is a city university of New York.
Okay.
It's in the Bronx, actually, and I was living in Harlem by that time again. And I just, once I started seeing the coursework available, I thought, oh, I can focus all of my coursework in sexual health. And that was perfect for me. So they didn't have like a sex education degree. So I was like, okay, health education. I then found out that the public schools and school institution was just not going to let me say what I wanted to say as a teacher. And so I didn't get my teacher certification, but I got the master's so that I could still learn how to educate people and how to create a curriculum and how to evaluate research for valid or what's considered valid data. And so that's why I ended up getting a degree in health education after doing some research, finding the right school and the coursework that I wanted to do.
I love that. I love that, because essentially it's not even that it stayed with you. It's like you were in a situation which would, like you said, toxic, right? And you had the idea, like, oh yeah, there was that little thing back then. I am passionate about that. Let me explore it. And for a lot of people, they don't chase or follow that voice.
Yeah.
And for you, it just opened back a whole side of you that you had once been really, really passionate about anyway. So you said you learned about, like, you know, creating a curriculum, and I think that's really important that you said that. You know, the institution wouldn't allow you to teach it how you wanted to.
Yeah.
What was your relationship with the thought of like entrepreneurship at this time? Like, why not do entrepreneurship instead of go to school?
Wow. Now that I'm an entrepreneur, I have thought back on that a lot, and I didn't have that confidence. I didn't have that confidence, and I didn't have that example yet. One of my close friends was an entrepreneur, I would say, just towards the end of our college experience. And so I saw her, but she was in fashion. She was selling t-shirts and had a brand. And so that was the only example I really had. And she was stressed out, honey. So I was like,
don't want no piece of that.
Entrepreneurship is not for me.
Yes.
I know how to be at somebody's job and show up in 9 to 5 and plan things. So it wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah. It's crazy how exposure works, right? Okay, so, and honestly and truly, the education, do you feel like, you know, because fast forward, DE&I, right? Like, there's so many parts of the tapestry, and I would do it, I feel like a 90-minute conversation just doesn't do your journey justice. But the DE&I piece, like, I honestly, you've worked, and honestly, I don't know the color of any of the people that you've worked with, right? Like your identity as a woman, as a Black woman, even sexual education, you identifying the fact that, okay, institutions aren't going to allow me to speak. Like, all of these things, I can make so many connections, but I don't have time to work. How did you, but now I'm formulating a question, because now it's like, how did your identity like play a role in, like, is it identity or what was it that steered you, that's the right word, to like the DE&I space?
Absolutely. similar to like wanting to learn. So in undergrad, I took Pan-African Study everything. My writing class was actually focused in African literature. And so that was what definitely started the interest in learning more about Black culture that included more than slavery. And then working in the fashion industry as a Black woman and later coming out as a Black queer woman, there were lots of non-Black people around. There was lots of colorist and racist comments that were not always said directly to me or about me, but just in passing, or I could hear certain things. Working in this luxury store, right? And this, I would even say in retail in general, the loss prevention, they call it loss prevention, theft, procedures are often rooted in one, making assumptions, but then also like for example, one of them is like, oh, if somebody comes in with a crinkled or old bag, they might be stealing. Okay. Right. But there would be all different races or ethnicities of people with crinkled bags. But the Black people definitely got followed. Most definitely. Right. Or Bergdorf would have different colored bags for different seasons. Their main color was purple. And so during like summer or winter, they would have holiday bags. And so if someone came in July with a holiday bag, you're like, why are you, we don't even have these bags on the floor no more. So these are loss prevention indicators, but also when you know those indicators, there were also pieces and times when people were followed or questioned that may or may not have those indicators, but were Black, or had on sneakers, or fitted caps, right? Because I was in retail in the early mid 2000s. Those were very popular. And so there were still these things that were rooted in anti-Blackness. And as the store manager, sometimes I had to perpetuate those policies. And or create new policies to add on or expand, so that my sales associates specifically knew, you have 30 seconds to speak to people when they come into the door. I don't care what they look like. Period. I don't care if you think they're gonna shop here. I don't care if they come in and out the store 15 times already because people just playing. Every time someone comes into the store, you speak to them and acknowledge their existence. Because when I walk into stores, people don't acknowledge me all the time. And it just doesn't feel good. I am not invisible. And matter of fact, you definitely saw me. Most definitely. Yeah. For many reasons, whether my hair is big or I got on a certain color, you saw me. Yes. Right? Yes. So as a Black woman, I have not had the privilege to not see race. And then I thought, okay, well, what else can I learn about my culture, my race, my history, and how else can I incorporate that into the work that I'm doing? And so at the foster care agency, I worked with a lot of kids that were Haitian and Dominican and multiracial. And it's like, we have to talk about these things. We have to. Yeah. So yeah, that was like this. So they can, like, one, so they can know their heritage, right? But then two, so that you can like identify, so that, like, they can have their own sense of identity. Absolutely. I think that for you are very poised and you seem very logical in your thinking, right? So you navigate a world where you kind of have like strong ties, and you're also educated from like an African history perspective. But without that, at a young age, you got to catch them when they're young so that they can know who they are. Yes. When they're in this world. Yes, because my mom, her version was, oh no, your little white friends don't really like you. And I was like, Mama, what? but Amanda, that is my best friend.
Right.
And now I understand what she was saying from the level of information that she had, and what she was trying to get me to realize. And frankly, it stuck in my head because I will never forget that conversation.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, I needed more. I needed to understand more the nuance, the history of this country, to really know what she was trying to say.
Yeah. You've been in different situations where you've experienced conflict, workplace conflict against you, against others. You've been in different environments where you're the only black girl, where you're around power, all these different dynamics. And now you're going into corporate spaces and you're helping people iron out some of their conflicts, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Given that statement, right, of like, Amanda don't like you, it creates a schema in our mind.
Absolutely.
Where it's hard to break that, especially when you want to be objective with what you know and you're educated and humans are humans. You want to be realistic about things. How does this, the childhood you and the educated you, how does this play a role in you being able to, the word is not mitigate conflict, but how does it play a role when you go into a situation where you are now a black woman and you are here to diffuse a situation? There it is. I got it. How does that stuff come into the room with you as a black woman, as a black queer woman who is in the room to diffuse a conflict?
Yes. Ooh. Okay, breathing. Yes. That's one of the first most important things, is to get centered. Because I have the wherewithal and kind of foresight to know there are power dynamics at play. And it's this kind of fun thing for me, because in a corporate setting, I've facilitated with medical providers, doctors. So, if I put thinking about power dynamics, the power and control wheel specifically, it's like, okay, you're a medical doctor, maybe you're a man, maybe you're white, maybe you're a white man. In this society, you have more power. But when I'm facilitating, I know what I'm talking about. I am the expert. And so that lends that extra little sprinkle of confidence of, you can know what you're talking about. You go on and do the heart surgery, stitch somebody up. I'm not going to do that. But today, I am here as the expert so that we can talk about whatever has been going on in this space. And so really coming in from that point, like for me personally, I don't necessarily always say that. Sometimes I have to, because people that have power are not used to not having it. So sometimes that has to be said. So that helps those moments. But also, I tell people when I'm facilitating, I am here to answer your wildest questions. Because I don't want you to go back after this conversation and go ask your coworker, so how do you get your hair like that? Ask me. I'd rather you ask me and we talk about why the fetishizing of black women's hair has this deep history. And even if you are fascinated or interested, if you have a relationship with this person, I don't like your hair looks nice, period. Because there's that history there. And my hair wasn't always allowed to be like this at work. Right? So there's just all these layers and nuances. And so I often tell people when I'm facilitating conversations, usually small group, as far as corporate is concerned, I'm here to answer your questions. I am really like this. I'm authentic. I'm like, this is the most dressed up I got in 2 years. This is for you. Okay? This is for you. Because sometimes I'm jeans and a t-shirt, like let's take away as many of the power dynamics and the power trips possible so that we can just have some authentic and maybe get to genuine conversations, right? Like, let's get there. What else is really going on? Did your mama tell you something about Black people? Let's talk about that.
That's good.
Let's get there, because ignoring it helps no one.
You know, I like talking to you because in this specific moment, with all these different like variables and the way that I communicate, I like that you pick up what I'm putting down.
Yeah, it's good.
Because what I'm hearing is, because my mom told me, my friend, and I want to say Amanda, but I'm not quite. Okay. She doesn't like me. You know, I internalize this thing about white people, and I'm aware of that. But that is what allows me to help disarm you, white man, so that you can just tell me what your auntie said about me, so that we can heal it together.
Absolutely.
And the beauty of that is that there are a lot of white people walking around who don't feel safe enough to just say that kind of stuff. But because we know, you know, and you specifically are self-aware enough to bring that into the room with you, right? That's why you are the expert. You create a space that allows them to heal. So I don't know if I could have asked it a better way, because I'm like, yo, you answered the question times 10. That was so good. That was so good. Oh my gosh. As I'm thinking about you talking, I'm looking at your jewelry, and we haven't talked about that part of your business yet. And I'm curious about the way that it resonates with you, because for me, when I look at spiritual jewelry, I get very logical about it, and I say, well, yeah, if you have a little thing here, it can remind you because your eyes got dark here, or if I have a bracelet, it can at least remind me that it's blue and to remember to speak my truth. For you, is it both logical and spiritual? How does that work for you?
Absolutely. It very much started from a place of logic, like literally just how you described it. That was it. So that's why they have the names that they have. I learned color therapy in my fashion degree. All this stuff, I'm telling you, it's wild how all this still connects. Yes. So I didn't even know about chakras yet. But I knew that people would paint their walls a certain color to evoke a certain feeling.
True.
Or brands would select a certain color to evoke a certain feeling. And so purple, for example, I mentioned Bergdorf, their bag is purple. It's a lighter purple. That is luxury, royalty. And so that's part of the reason why I'm sure they probably picked that color. And so when I was making my bracelets, that was definitely my framing. And as I started to go on my own healing journey, which started in 2014 with the 4 agreements, I started to learn about chakras and how can you, these centers of yourself, and how I've subconsciously, our society kind of talks about them in different ways already. And I thought, oh, wait, so this comes out of the ground, and so this is earth. They use quartz to charge watches. So when people are like, oh, vibration, they actually have a vibration. We have a vibration, our voices vibrate, right? Everything is vibrating, everything is energy. So as I started to learn more about that journey, I thought, oh, this isn't just a blue bracelet.
Right.
This is a blue bracelet that has this specific stone. This is sodalite. And this stone can be used for truthful communication. I'll just leave, there's several, but I'll just leave that one there. And so in addition to that is the color blue. Lighter blue can be calming. Darker blue can be, give you a sense of royalty. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna put all this in a bracelet and call it truth and communication, and then connect it to, so my website now, all of my bracelets are connected to a work-related experience. Because I want people to see that what you're dealing with at work there is something, and to put the logic piece in it, there is something that you can look down to in the middle of that meeting and remember, right, truth in communication. Ooh. Or remember, oh yeah, prosperity. This is that negotiation meeting that I'm supposed to have. Okay, bet. Right? This bracelet is actually black lava beads. I made this, I designed this the morning before I had to have a conversation with a very micromanaging boss. And I was confident in the conversation, but we had at that point so many, and it would get heated. Like, she would cry, I would just sit there. Sometimes I would, like, this was, again, toxic. And this is why I know what to do, because I've been there. Like I said at the beginning, I did not have any boundaries. And that's how I knew that's what was missing. Right? So I think that for people that are struggling with those reminders, the bracelets are perfect for that. They're perfect for that. And then you can even do like a bespoke bracelet, so a specialized bracelet for whatever it is that you have going on. And we have a 20-minute consultation. I talk to you about, okay, well, what's going on in your life, and what are you experiencing? What do you want to experience? And then I create something special just for you. What? And so then you could, like, add it to your meditation, add it to your prayer, add it to your journaling, right?
That's beautiful.
Don't forget what the consultation was about, what your intention was when the bracelet was created. Those reminders, because we can just go on autopilot the whole day. You get to place and you don't even know how you got there. So we need those reminders, especially in this oversaturated digital world of click this, flip this, go real fast. It's like, oh yes, okay, I'm going to do my meditation. I'm going to hold or wear my bracelet. I'm going to say my prayers in the morning, or whatever. However you decide to do and create your ritual, it is so important for us to just take a couple more minutes, sometimes seconds if that's all we got. Right? Okay, right, this is my reminder. This is what I'm going to do today.
You got a whole experience in the making of these.
Yes.
Now I'm curious about the actual offering, because I want to offer it to my listeners. This is something that y'all have to get apart. So one, I would love to know the offer, not the offer, but the offering. Like, when you, when someone finds you, they find your website, and then they set up a consultation before they can purchase anything?
So I have 11 bracelets that are always on the website. So anybody can just go on, and like this Truth in Communication bracelet, that's there, pre-made. You can just buy it as is. If you want a bespoke bracelet, then there's a 20-minute consultation, and that is booked and purchased on the website, all in one stop shop.
Tell me what bespoke means. I think I know it, but I forget.
It's similar, custom, tailored.
Okay.
It's the same,
but it's
made
like,
for you.
Okay, gotcha. Because it's like you want to say something.
Yes.
Right, okay. I'm there.
Make a statement.
Yes, it's like, yes, statement pieces. I'm there. Okay, so they can purchase that up front.
Yes.
They get time on your calendar. You have a conversation, and then 30-minute consultation, you said 20 minutes?
Yes.
And they tell you what they're going through. And in that consultation, you're figuring out what new piece, like what other stones and things you want to put together.
Absolutely.
Do they have a say in the colors? Okay, they do. So they get a say in the colors. They tell you what they're going through, and then you add your own pizzazz into whatever it gets?
Yes. So it really depends. Some people, they want just what they want.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm not going to, great. I might tell you, oh, well, if you get this color, it will add to whatever it is that we discussed, right? But I essentially, after the conversation, I go to work. I start researching. Usually I have something immediately on the top of my mind by the end of the conversation. And then I actually put together a slide deck. So you won't forget what your bracelet is about. Because you literally get slides.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, they get slides. And so I create a prototype. So I usually create 2 to 3 prototypes of what the bracelet would look like. And they get to pick. And when you look at it, you can say, take this out or put more of this or whatever. And that is usually after they've decided on what stone they want to use.
That's so cool. So can we get, like, can the audience get some, like, can we do like a discount code or just like?
Of course we can.
We can?
Yes.
Oh, can it be work and play?
Yes.
Let's go. Listen, this is for you guys. I was thinking the entire time.
She didn't ask me. It's fine. We're good.
I had a feeling it was going to be good. Even if you told me no, that's boundaries, right?
No, for real.
That would have been a practical
For real.
example for me to practice
For real.
boundaries.
Listen. But
I ain't scared.
Listen, you got it. We got it. So yes, absolutely. I can put together a promo code for your audience for sure. Specifically for the bespoke bracelets, because those I don't usually do promos on those.
Okay. That's amazing.
Because I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and I really am intentional in the stones that I select, the vendors that I use. All of my stones are all natural. So you can, if you've seen like hot pink, bright yellow, those are usually dyed. So I don't use any dyed stones unless a client is like, this is the one I want. And I'm like, okay, that's dyed. And I don't, as long as you put it in water, the color might come off. Yeah. Because it's a dyed stone. I will make it, but that's not what I like to have in my inventory.
Well, I would say not that at all. I'm the business strategist of it all, but you know, if we get two, because I understand the labor and love it goes into it. So if we get two, then we will do like the discount. But if it's like one,
I got y'all.
Listen, I want to respect the craft.
I got y'all.
I love it.
Yes.
So this has been a dope conversation. I have loved every single like turn we've been on, like literally. And I didn't know that your bracelets were even like tied to work experiences. Yeah, you're a dope chick.
Listen, I'm thank you.
Yeah.
And I am really trying to, I'm on a mission, you know. I want more people to feel more powerful in their everyday life, to feel more joy, because as a Black woman, as a woman, we can carry a lot. Right? As a Black person, a person of color, we can carry a lot in the society on our day-to-day basis, and that baggage is not ever ours to carry. Yeah. And I'm just on a mission for people to take back their power and use all that worry space, all that stressed out, anxious space for joy. Just
had to take a deep breath. Yes. I have 100% enjoyed this conversation. And before we get up out of here, I would love to just leave a word of wisdom that only you could package up in the way, like in all the experiences that you had, right? Sister girl is sitting in her cubicle right now, and she is trying to figure out what her options are. And she's also trying to figure out what that voice is saying so she can follow it. What's your word of advice for someone who hasn't yet tapped into their greatness?
Yes. You've already gotten the answer. You just need to believe that it's real.
You heard her. You can't even like elaborate on that. Hopefully that did not go over your head. And if you need to sit down with it a little bit, sit down with it. Journal a little bit, because I understand it might seem cryptic right now.
Yes, your intuition is divine.
Yeah.
It's divine.
Trust yourself. Thank you.
Absolutely.
For joining me on the couch.
Thank you.
Yes.
This has been fantastic.
Thank you guys for watching, and thank you for listening. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. You heard the woman. You know exactly what to do. Trust yourself. You already know what to do. You already know your purpose. But until next week, y'all, I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace.